Chris Paul was shoved in the back by Patrick Beverley and shoved pretty hard. Paul could be seen walking past Beverley before Beverley ran after Paul, shoved him in the back, and then a bit of a scuffle rather, ensued, but it was broken up fairly quickly. Beverley was ejected after the incident and apologized on Twitter. Andrew, was this a weak move by Patrick Beverley? Because like you just think like no matter what the situation is, just pushing the guy in the fourth quarter of the Western Conference Finals, like what is that?
You could point to it as weak, but you could also point to it as they broke them. You could point it as, this was an elimination game. This supposed to be the deeper team. This was supposed to be, it was almost like even though they were down, a lot of people were saying, this is theirs to lose. Like this is the Clippers to lose. They're going to win on their home floor. And I just think, having the performance, Chris Paul putting on that all-time performance in the Western Conference Finals game to clinch the series, I just think he broke them. Patrick Beverley is one of those players who's going to wear his emotions on his sleeve. And I just think that, him acting out, he's obviously a very emotional player. We've seen in years past, he gets in guys' faces. He's not scared to push people around and shove people. And you just saw that in the moment, they knew their season was over. And it was just a sign that not just Beverley, but the entire Clippers team, they were defeated, and it showed.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. Like, I truly get that. I do think they were broken, but I also think that's kind of why, that's more evidence of why this was a weak move by Patrick Beverley. Because Patrick Beverley, like, when you get broken, that's an indication that you were broken, which is an indication of weakness. So I do think it was a weak move, especially doing it. It's one thing to, like, go after him, right? And then, like, he turns around in your face and then you push him. Like, that's one thing. But to do it when the guy has his back turned, to do it when like he's not even looking, that in any scenario, dude, that's a weak ass move. Like that, it's like the equivalent of a sucker punch, like from behind, just doing it from behind. Like it was obviously not that level. I'm not saying it was, but it's very similar as far as like just how scummy it is. It because it was, I think, a scummy move. I think that Patrick Beverley, you can point to things like the fact that they were down, they were the better team, but Patrick Beverley, he's got a bit of a history with this, man. Like the dude, I get wearing your emotions on your sleeve. I 100% get that. But to do something like this to Chris Paul in this manner, right? It was one of the more respected players in the league, by the way, in Chris Paul. A lot of players get a lot of flack, but Chris Paul is actually kind of respected around the league. But for him to do that, along with what he did in the previous game when he mocked Chris Paul after he actually took a legitimate fall, which it wasn't a flop, it was a legitimate fall on the court, and then he mocked him after that. Like, I think it's like indicative of Patrick Beverley. I think he was the one trying to play a lot of these head games. But at the end of the day, Chris Paul just showed up to play, and that ended up getting in his head more so than anything. And I think part of the frustration might have been that he wasn't able to get into Chris Paul's head. Like that might have been also playing because he just got 41 points scored on him, and you look at that. Patrick Beverley's allegedly one of the best defenders in the league, but then you look at his performance against like great players like him, like Chris Paul, like Steph Curry, like he doesn't do too well against those kind of guys. So I think that also brings that into question. But I mean, look, the other thing that I think has kind of come out of this is the question of, is Patrick Beverley a dirty player? And I'm not going to say that he's necessarily dirty, right? He's done a lot of dirty moves, Just like I don't think Draymond Green is dirty. I think he's done a lot of dirty moves. But people point to things like, earlier in the series when he mocked Chris Paul, like I said. People also point to things like back in 2013 when he injured Russell Westbrook, as him being a dirty player. So what do you have to say about that? You think Patrick Beverley is a dirty player?
I don't think he's a dirty player, dude. I just think the way he plays, if a lot of people know his journey, dude, he wasn't drafted. He left school early, went to Arkansas. He's had to fight and claw for his entire career, dude. Like he's always had to, he's always had to do dirty work and something like that. So sometimes, when you're doing the dirty work and something like that, stuff's gonna happen. So it's just a reflection of the way that he plays the game. He's not necessarily, I don't think he's a dirty player. I just think that he's one of those dudes that he plays hard, and sometimes things happen.
A
He's
lot
not.
of
Put it this way, dude. Put it this way, dude. If when you see guys going to the basket, you don't see Beverley, like committing a flagrant foul. You don't see him doing stuff like that. Like you don't see him like flagrant fouling people at the basket when it's like, I get it. He dives on a loose ball, and sometimes, you look at he does things that some stars wouldn't do, and so you look at that and you're like, oh, sometimes what happens might be a dirty play, but he's not blatantly going out there being like, I'm going to dive at your knee to try to tear your ACL. He's not doing stuff.
There's
like
a
that.
difference. But there's a difference, I think. And again, like there's a difference between hustle, right? Like you can have hustle. Like I'm not saying Patrick Beverley doesn't have hustle. He does hustle for the ball, for the loose balls. He does the extra work, which is why I think he was regarded for a while as a very good defender. But when you look at his lack of discipline, as Cameron just mentioned in the chat, you look at his lack of discipline in these situations, and overall, like I think it is indicative of him having him being more impulsive than a lot of other players. Like you remember back when he did that weird thing, he got into a Twitter beef with Steph Curry, and Curry just annihilated him with one tweet. Like Patrick Beverley was talking all this shit, like, "Oh, it's my time now. Like it's my time. I'm the greatest. I'm the best point guard in the NBA." And then Steph Curry said, "It's your time. You're 30. You're a 31-year-old man. Like step off." Like it's stuff like that, and then not being able to really prove it. Like when that moment comes, I think that's what separated him for a lot of his career. And look, we saw in these playoffs, dude. He's not the same Patrick Beverley as he used to be. He's not. Like, and we need to be clear about that. So, again, is he a dirty player? No. I think he has done dirty actions, especially like there's no justification. Like we can talk about circles around it all we want. There's no justification where he did the Chris Paul. Like who knows what could happen, man? He could have like hurt himself. Who knows? You pushed him. He pushed him pretty hard. Like you got to admit. Like, but there's no real justification for it. He apologized. I hope he's good. I hope Chris Paul is good. But you can't do that. You just simply can't do that. Do it to his face. That's all I'm saying. If you're gonna do it to his face.
Yeah, I don't know, because sometimes, a lot of times people will blow things out of proportion, and they like to label guys, like you were saying, dude. Draymond has been labeled a dirty player because of a few dirty plays here and there, but he's not, like I said, dude, he's not diving at nobody's knee trying to tear nobody's ACL. Remember, who was it? Remember, I mean,
Kelly Olynyk. To this day, I will say Kelly Olynyk is a dirty player because he literally took in 2014. He literally took Kevin Love's arm in Game 4 when the Celtics were about to get swept, and he took it out of its socket. And then Kevin Love was gone for the rest of the postseason, and then the Cavs ended up losing to the Warriors. So I point at things like that. It's not at that level of dirty, It's not like Rasheed Wallace. Love Rasheed Wallace, by the way. Love Rasheed Wallace, but he was a dirty player too. But
it's not like, dude. It's not like Lambeer. It's not like the bad boy Pistons or something like that. Who was it, dude? There were dudes that wanted Solomon Hill kicked out of the league because of the way he fell. Because of the way he fell on LeBron. Like sometimes things happen, When you're playing hard and guys like that who have to play hard to even get on the court. Things happen.
Thanks for watching this video from Real Take Sports Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Also, remember to check out our live show every single Thursday at 8 p.m. right here on the YouTube channel. And remember, keep it real.